I selected the semiotic method to discuss this week. Semiotics, or semiology, confronts the question of how images or language make meanings directly. It offers many analytical tools for taking an image apart and tracing how it works in relation to broader systems of meaning. Semiotics can be used not only with language, but with visual signs. Perhaps the most important tool in semiology is the sign. A sign contains meaning of an intrinsic nature. Words, images, and objects can all be signs. Signs are viewed within structure or systems of signs. Saussure considered language itself as a system of signs. Signs are made up of the signifier, the form or sound of the sign, and the signified, the idea or concept the sign represents. The two are combined to result in the understanding of meaning of a sign. Semiology uses an elaborate vocabulary as a means to describe how signs make sense and how signs are connected. What one sign means can depend on its relationship to other signs. I'm going to briefly discuss the Betty Starr artwork, I'll Bend But I Will Not Break, from a semiotic standpoint. At first glance, in this installation, you recognize a white sheet hanging on a clothesline by clothespins, an old wooden ironing board, and a vintage solid metal iron. Upon further examination, though, each of those objects has elements that create meaning and even perhaps a narrative. These elements also make a connection between all of the objects between their practical function. On the white sheet, in white threading on the side trim, the letters K, K, K are embroidered. Although quite simple in form, these letters come with their own history and connotations that are recognizable to the average American. The ironing board in the tableau has two images on it that are not subtle in the least. Both images depict aspects of slavery. The first I will be discussing is perhaps the most prominent of the two, that of the Brooks slave ship. This historical image of how slaves were stowed on trade ships shows how inhumanely crowded these ships were. To the right of the Brooks slave ship image on the ironing board is a derogatory image of a black mammy. The figure of the black mammy has become iconic in our culture, especially in the South. The role of the mammy was to work in a white household to raise children and help with housework. The mammy that is depicted in the artwork is tending to her household laundry duties. This icon specifically integrates the black female body into the artwork, doing a woman's work. Another element that connects the image of the slave ship and the mammy is the shackle that attaches the iron to the ironing board. The shackle itself references how slaves were chained to slave ships, but the iron represents female labor and the act of branding slaves with a branding iron. All three of these elements, the black mammy, the iron, and the shackle, have their own individual histories, but when combined together they influence new meanings and connections, especially in conjunction with the white sheet with the KKK insignia hanging behind them. There are some strengths and weaknesses to semiology. As a method, semiology permits reflexivity and provides a very precise and rich vocabulary to help understand how the structure of images can produce cultural meaning. However, several potential weaknesses are that the terminology can at times be difficult to understand, and semiotics can sometimes be uninterested in how different viewers may interpret images differently.